Hey y'all, I'm Kelly Moody, and you're listening to the Ground Shots Podcast, an audio project exploring our relationship to ecology through conversations and storytelling with farmers, herbalists, craftspeople, naturalists, artists, and more. Hey y'all, Kelly here. Welcome to the Ground Shots Podcast. I'm currently recording this sitting in a new bell tent I just purchased on discount. It's kind of like a wall tent and a yurt mixed together, but pretty minimal, and camping outside of Durango, Colorado, in a beautiful mild spring. Not a lot of rain, which would be nice here. It's so dry, but it's a beautiful space to be inhabiting right now. More space than I've had in quite a while. This episode of the Ground Shots podcast features a conversation with Dan Nanamkin, and I'm going to read a little bit from his website so that you can get to know a little bit about who he is before I speak to what we talked about. Dan Nanamkin is from the Chief Joseph Band of Ottawa, Nez Perce, and Colville Confederated Tribes of Washington State, and has been an advocate and teacher for Indigenous culture, community unity, youth empowerment, racial equality, and peace for several decades. Prior to Standing Rock, Dan took one of the leads in helping to restore ancient canoe culture of the Northwest Plateau tribes, the River Warriors. This inspired him to further connect with the water, something that led him to Standing Rock. He endured months of peaceful frontline action at Standing Rock from September 2016 until March 2017. Dan has since traveled across the nation, speaking with his 2 dogs and a band, the One Tribe Movement. Dan advocates for people to be better informed, to get more involved, and to resist racism and violence, and to support the movement to protect Mother Earth. He is a public presenter, musician, and author who remains active in bringing forth awareness of Native culture. His mission is to connect modern-day people with the traditions that are still absolutely relevant and critical to life today. Dan hopes to bring back traditional knowledge of the earth, plants, and medicines, and survival in a way to encourage healing, wellness, and respect for balance with Mother Earth and all living beings. In this conversation with Dan, we talk about Dan's Sovereignty Camp Skillshare project, which focuses on educating Native youth about traditional skills, how Sovereignty Camp started and Dan's motivation for the project, what skills are taught at the camps, why creating an educational alternative that focuses on cultural education for Native youth away from mainstream schooling is important. The importance of Indigenous-led Skillshares, why land skills are important for Indigenous sovereignty, Dan's visions for the future of the camps and his land project, how folks can support Dan's Sovereignty Camp project. I really enjoyed speaking with Dan via Zoom this past spring, and hope to get to chat with him again, and I'm looking forward to seeing how his camps evolve and where they go, and if anyone has any resources for how Dan could get grants for the camp. He mentions in the podcast interview that he's working on trying to get funding, so you can hear all about the project and his motivations and trials and tribulations and how much it's benefiting people in this interview. Let's go ahead and get to it. Happy listening, y'all. Burn, burn with the light that reveals our faces. Burn, burn with the heat that will warm these places. So will you start, Dan, by introducing yourself and where you're located and what projects you're up to right now?
All right. East Uklasinum Kla, Dan Nanamkin. I'm here on the Colville Indian Reservation, which is in north central Washington. And here I represent the Okanagan, the Snakes, the Arrow Lakes, and Kettle Falls on my father's side, and on my mother's side, I'm the Nez Perce and Umatilla. So there's a wide range of area and terrain. And so it's a lot of responsibility to try to learn, through the foods and the food systems, the history that encompasses all those tribes of people and that diversity of land. So right now, here in my own home, which is in Espilum, on this little land here, this is where we're starting our warrior camp, our warrior land sovereignty camp. And we've had this 2 years now. And right now, we were actually supposed to be having a camp, but due to the COVID-19, we've had to cancel that or postpone it till a further another date.
Will you tell me more about your Sovereignty Camp project and kind of what your goals are for hosting that and facilitating that?
Well, I'm really pleased that things been really going well, and we're just started with a prayer, and this was just all just a thought and a dream at one time. And right after Standing Rock, there's some relatives that I met there that we all came together and we prayed about it, and it's just been happening. But it goes back further than that. Prior to Standing Rock, I was a community center director, so I did a lot of community events. I hosted A to Z on community events here at the center hub of our reservation. And some of the things I did or tried to start was like a community garden. I did warrior youth camps. We did spiritual camps, a lot of gatherings, fitness, health, family. It was really amazing. I loved working with our communities and seeing them thrive and learn and also share their skills. A lot of them didn't know that they were teachers and that their skills were valuable, but to the kids, they were. The kids loved them. So I've always had that in my heart. So from there, I went to Standing Rock. And at Standing Rock, they started to talk about resiliency. They started talking about self-sustainability, and they were working at a camp themselves. And we were forcefully removed, at Standing Rock prior to anything that could really be more permanent. But they did have their own educational center. They were planning to build community gardens in a cultural village, cultural site, and just to help sustain their knowledge and their traditions within a environment, that was really conducive to their cultural um, um, lodges. So this was also an inspiration to me further to see other people with that mindset, and that wow, there are other people who are thinking this way. And but I after learning, I guess, a lot of things from you know, what we're experiencing now with the government, what a lot of people are just maybe awakening to, that we've known, for several years now, that these things were in fact all, a lot of things to be contend with, and that there would be things that would occur, and a lot of dangers and corruption. However, our indigenous people, unfortunately, we've been dealing with that through generations upon generations of the same abuse. So there's always been a call back to our self-sustainability and relationship to the land. And this just promoted that further, to know that we have to be prepared. We have to learn our plant medicines. We have to learn our food sovereignty. But even beyond that, how do we exist and cohabitate as human beings of all colors, all nations? So this is here in this little piece of land. This is a place I've opened up my doors for people to come in to offer their skills. And we've been really blessed with some really amazing people, just like Gabe and the Saskatoon family, and a lot of, the Friends of the Trees, and just a lot of great societies, that came here to just share and honor, their skills and the abundance. But more so, I start working with the Boys and Girls Club and some of the local indigenous schools. So we basically come here, and we do a skill share, helping each other to learn. We also grow and form community and friendships and relationships. But and we worked on the land for a few days toward developing this project. Then boom, we bring the kids in, and then we just do this class with the kids, and wow, just to see their level of excitement, it's been, that's what keeps me going with this, is just that the kids, they get to see past these barriers of racism and socialism and all of the statusism and all this other stuff. They get to see people as human beings, with their skills of life and the things that they bring here, and the kids ask all sort of questions. And one thing that's been really awesome is, like, one seventh grade teacher is like, man, these kids are a challenge. They're not interested in nothing. You're gonna have such a challenge with them. And when they came here, they're wanting to come back, and they loved it, and they were just hands on, because as of indigenous learning, that's our style of learning, is hands on learning experience. So we're here, we're enthused, and we're passionate about what we're teaching, and these kids see it, they sense it, and they love it, and they're welcomed with loving hands, that just show them and offer them, hey, check this out. And the kids are like, whoa, and they just boom, boom, question after question. So I think that's a success with this program.
What kind of skills are you teaching at this camp? And is it primarily kids that are the students, or is it also adults?
Yeah, well, I've opened it to anybody, so it's open enrollment. I've I don't want to charge anybody anything, so we've never charged anybody anything to participate. And I've always said, everybody come, you're all welcome, and this is a way for us to start to create our communities and communication. This offers us a chance for that healing, because as everybody knows, the history has not been very good for all of our people. And how do we move forward? Well, here on the reservation, that's a challenge. So I'm really grateful for the people who are show their strength, and their courage. They come here, and everybody is offered a safe place. There's no drugs, no alcohol, there's no racism, there's no bullying. None of that's tolerated here. And within these ground rules, and we began to build a structure of what can we do. So everybody comes. For example, someone brings in some of their food sources. This here food, we're going to learn about this. Okay, another one comes, and we bring salmon, and they say, hey, we're going to make the salmon, we're going to cut it up, and we're going to show you how to can salmon, and show them how to wind dry, how to cut up a deer, utilize all the deer, tan the hides, go out and collect the medicines, the roots. Okay, with this, we're going to make this tincture, and this medicine, and we talk about, the plants, this plants, these different plants that have different values and medicines and purposes. And we have the prayer, this is always, everything is done in a prayerful, thankful way, and so people, sometimes it's their first connection to that here. And so it's basically, we got permaculture. My soil here is acidic, and it's dry, and if you can hear the wind blowing, it's also really windy, so we have challenges. And for me, I would say I'm a person that has no experience with gardening other than growing radishes as a kid, So here I am, like, oh man, I'm overwhelmed. This is gardening is a scary thing to me, but all of a sudden this year now I have confidence to tell other people out here, say, hey, if you guys need help with gardening, want some advice, I'll help you. I never would have had that confidence in the past, but I've learned a few things. So it just keeping that going and sharing it with other people.
Sweet. What are your long-term goals with this sovereignty camp? I know that also your land, you're wanting to cultivate a space where people can come to, and I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about what you envision in the future for this project.
Oh, I don't know if you could see this drawn very well, but within here we have a lot of the cultural sites. Like we have our pit house, the pit house. We have our, which is the Earth Lodge. You know, there's other things that I would love to learn towards green energy. You know, solar energy, aquaponics, um, greenhouse. I'd like to explore an underground type greenhouse. So it's a mixture of what we have modern, but also educational place with you know, some of the traditional structures like you see the teepee. You might even see the yurt or different things like that. Eventually, I would like for more people, you know, to come, you know, and maybe even stay a while and just kind of do a skill share um, type trade. Um, Eventually, I want to create this camp that goes all 4 seasons of the year because our people also we live through the 4 seasons, and each season we had different things. Like the winter, for example, that just ended is our time for storytelling and creating things, making things. And right now, as we go into the spring, you know, a lot of the plant medicines that are being gathered, and pretty soon the salmon that's coming up, you know, the river, then later on the berries, you know, and the hunting and so on and so forth. So different things are done through, you know, the year. So my the education I'm hoping that will prevail itself is going through that year, that cycle of the year. uh right now we sit on 1 acre, and I would love to eventually get, you know, more acreage, you know, or even build out to other sites. Right now we have people in the Methil, Leavenworth, Republic, Canada, Spokane area, and I want to create, you know, these different hubs, if you will, you know, and our um, connections with different camps. My thought and hope was like, say for example, after Staten Rock. After Staten Rock, I drove all the way from Washington D.C. all the way home, and I never been out there before, but I had a place to stay everywhere I went. You know, there was people said, "Hey, you know, we want to open this place up for some water protectors, so they have a safe place. I'm going to take care of them. You know, they could come here and get a little R&R that will, you know, help them with some body work and, you know, communication, whatever. You know, and we just want to hear you guys talk about your experience. You know, so there's always reciprocation. Eventually my hope is that, you know, we could go to Oregon and say, okay, next month so and so is going to have this camp down there, and they're going to be teaching X, Y, and Z. You know, the next week we're over here, or next month, whatever, on the coast. Then boom, we're learning this and that. What the things that are specific to the coastal region, and vice versa, all the places that have different lands, different medicines, different teachings, different skill shares and ideas. But we also go back to what really helped us as indigenous people thrive at one time was that trade and barter, you know, that network of trade and barter. So we become less reliant, you know, on the government. We become less reliant on the tribe. You know, we become more self-reliant on ourselves and each other, you know, as family, as relatives, and we have, because there's different medicines that grow over there on the coast, and there's different medicines that grow here. And historically, that's how our people were strong and vibrant, is because we had this great network of trade. Because what exists here only helps us to a certain extent, but once we have medicines from these other regions and foods, we, you know, the variety it riches us. And I just want to keep pushing for that. So my hope in here is I'm only, at the beginning, and the hope is to bridge out and create more networks of more people, more families, but we also have the respect that it's indigenous led. It's indigenous led because everywhere else I go, I hear other people doing camps, but they kind of put the indigenous people last or completely forget about them altogether. But the thing is with the indigenous knowledge and wisdom, there's, for example, these plants is a lot of people discover is that there's a twin every plant, that there's dangers, there's poisons, and there's also deeper meaning spiritually to these plants and these medicines. And that's one of the things that we also have to communicate, because there's a lot of cultural appropriation that takes place. So this is why I think it's very, very critical and important to have the indigenous knowledge, to lead that way, because I can't dictate what happens over there on the coast. The coastal people within that tribe, that region, they understand that food system and the history, the knowledge, and the spiritual significance of that food. And same with here. When we have the salmon here, we have stories, we have songs, we have different things that we have. We even have a salmon chief. So just having that sort of wisdom and knowledge, to inspire, and how do we live? How do we live with each other? As relatives and brothers and sisters. It's going to be a challenge. It will be a challenge, but I think this is something that is, mm, oh geez, what's the word I'm looking for? It's revolutionary in a way, because it's, even for me, I have to take the risks amongst my own people, by doing this. When I first came and did this the first year, we had like a lot of looks from people in the community, because they're like, they never seen people walking around dressed up in leather and buckskin and dreads, and and they're like, what are these people walking around with these goats? And they didn't know what to think or to expect. But next year, them kids are asking, hey, where's that guy with the goat? Where's that guy with the goat? And so they were looking for him, and it's building those relationships. So it's taking that step forward, and I'm willing to do that, because I know a lot of our brothers and sisters, they have a lot of wisdom too, and a lot of skills. And and I think that's really important, that we share our skills and our relationships, and to begin this path of communication on how do we move forward. There's no book to read on that. I mean, we're at a phase now that's very important, especially with what's happening right now, with the economy, what's happening, going to happen, in the future with the food stamp program, and a lot of the government subsidies, and a lot of the people who are getting laid off, losing jobs, and going through it in the economic crisis. Food sovereignty is going to be very important. And what happens with big pharma, when and different things, when people can't afford medicines anymore, well, we're going to have to go back here to these roots, these plants. So we got to keep this knowledge alive, because our elders, we're losing our elders, and with each loss of our elders, we're losing valuable, education and knowledge. So just trying to create that awareness and education, so eventually we pass it to the youth, you know, and pass it to along with each other, and create a stronger circle.
I appreciate that you spoke to the importance of needing indigenous led like skills gatherings, because I've been attending them for years all over the country, and I always notice that it's predominantly white people, and often there's a few Native peoples there and hardly any other people of color half the time at these gatherings. And I think often here, well, people don't feel comfortable with these things that are like usually white people led or whatever, even though some of the skills are obviously very relevant to anyone. So I think, yeah, I think it's great that you are leading the way with that kind of thing, because there's not enough of it from my perspective, you know.
Thank you. And I know that the Saskatoon gather, I know that they've been wanting, natives to attend, but like a lot of times natives, they themselves won't get involved, so it's taken me to kind of go out there and maybe test the waters and see what things are like. And sometimes you have to be cautious, because I know that there's been some places I went where you're basically a poster boy, is a native person of color, but they don't want to really pay attention to anything that we have to say or offer, but they just want you there for their photos to say, this was a cultural enriched project, and these indigenous people support us. That's unfortunate that happens, but my hope, is through writing my books. I'm also an educator. I travel through the nation. I do presentations, and I have an audition for TED Talk, this Thursday. Fingers crossed on that, because I want to talk for these plants. I want to talk for the animals. I want to talk, for the things that grow. These are our relatives, and we're abusing them. I mean, you walk out here to the lakes and to the streams, and you see garbage, you see trash, you see discarded animal parts, you see forests that are just slashed and just look horrible. And you just see a lot of things that, you under, it makes you feel really bad that we are losing our touch, to this natural world. We're losing our respect, to Mother Nature, and I think we're reeling those effects, through the COVID-19 and all these other things that are happening. There's these forces, and we got to just keep living our life in a good way right now, and that's being rooted to the earth. So that's doing everything you and I and all of us are trying to do to keep our connections, with everything that is grown naturally, as well as our spiritual path and our connection to the land.
I know you spoke to it a little bit, but maybe you could speak a little bit more to the importance of sharing these skills with Native youth, especially as time goes on. Like, what effect do you feel like that will have or could have, and why that's an important thing?
Well, as an educator, one thing as I travel across the nation, it's really sad that a lot of schools, their native education is very minimal. They start with Christopher Columbus, and that's where they begin their American history. When they fail to see that, American history far superseded that. It's old as these rocks, it's old as, the earth, and our people were here from that time. And from that time, we have our stories. In our tribe, we call them our Chaptilk. These are our legends and our stories. And those things they label them as myths. If you go to any library or whatever, oh, that's a Native American myth. These are just fables, to the make believe. But this is a whole history, and through our history, we have our laws. These are our spiritual laws, and these are what holds us to the land and the connection to our foods, our animals, and to each other. And this is our sacred connection to everything that lives. And those things are not taught in schools, so kids don't learn anything about that. They learn to stand and salute that flag, and they don't learn their Indian songs that speak to the land and have that connection to the land. They're not taught our ways, because our ways is our spiritual walk of life. And so they confuse the religion in schools. So you try to teach anything of our culture, that they'll um, it won't they'll frown upon it, I guess you would say. So to me, this is why it's important to have this camp here, so we could get away from the school system and those four walls, and they could come out here into an environment that's conducive to a tribal village, I guess you would say, and that's why we put up the teepees, we have the sweat lodge, and we have the Indian foods that are from here, as well as the modern foods, the organic foods of the garden. And we want to teach his kids, and a lot of them, they don't have maybe the father figure, maybe they don't have the uncle, a lot of their grandparents have probably passed, so they don't have those teachers, and a lot of the schools, they don't have the education. And so this is really vital that we open this door, and it's really sad. I mean, as the educator, as a teacher, I travel to different schools, but even locally, there's resistance, and I don't know why it's that way, but I think it just got to continue to keep trying, and hopefully get more people involved, more elders involved, more of our tribal leaders involved, and people begin to see, wow, this is valuable. And I think right now, if our tribe really took it to heart, they could be doing something really major right now that could really have great positive implications and safety for all of our tribe and our people. But it would be something they would have to really invest into, this is just a small 1 acre project. But the tribe, they have the resources and the funding, they could really create something huge and serve a lot of people, and so that's the hope, is that it'll somehow inspire somebody along the way, and that they take it onto the next level, because it could be really huge, I think. And I would like to see that, hopefully in my time.
You usually do it like spring and fall right now. Is that normally how you do it? Obviously now you're not hosting because of the pandemic, but
Yes, spring and fall. Right now, the challenges is, all the land work, our growing seasons a little later, than most people. Um, didn't actually put the vegetables into the ground until a few more weeks from now. And so we still got all of this manure to bring in, all of this ground to till up, all of these things. And this year, because of the social distancing, and guess what? That's all going to be on me, and as well as going out there into the fields to gather the foods out there in the fields. A lot's gonna fall back on me, and hopefully, if I could get a little bit of help with funding, I'll be able to, maybe at least pay some people some gas money or something, to help me out a little bit, because there's a lot of work, as well as the high tanning, as you know, it's a hard work, so and so right now I'm so spread thin on so many things. It's really tough, but right in the spring about now, we'll have the first camp, and then the fall time after the food is harvested, and then we'll have a camp in the fall. um, Eventually, I would. And this last year, we actually had a 1 day winter camp, a survival camp. That was kind of fun because we learned about chaga mushrooms, being able to hold the flame, and we went down, brought the kids down to the creek, and they had the job of going and trying to find fire starting materials. I mean, they did all the book studying, in class. But so now they came out here, had to walk in the snow, go down the creek, and try to look at things and identify. Okay, that's that. Then they brought it back, and then they all had to work at building a fire in the snow. And so that was a little bit about that survival. But we also did storytelling. So and that's one of our things that we do here in the winter. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I would really love to go a little bit further on that. So we just wanted to test it out this year, and it was pretty positive. So next year, if things work out, I've been writing a lot of grants, and this year the competition for grant writing is really tough, really tough. But I'm going to continue to write grants in the hopes that we could get some funding, to build our infrastructure and have the support for the things we need, and a little support, just so I could get a little bit more help here too, and continue on having camps. And eventually it would be nice to have maybe somebody here a little bit longer and just kind of work with them and cross pollinate, in a way of education wise, teaching each other and just building. It's like you say, iron sharpens iron, and just got to keep doing that and developing our skills. So yeah.
Cool. How can folks maybe get, I mean, are you open to people getting involved in the camps who maybe have skills they could share, and like what's your process with that? And yeah, how can people get more involved?
Okay. Well, I do a lot of things on Facebook. I'm pretty transparent, so I have questions. I'll post pictures, like I'm trying to identify things. Like, so if people message me and say, hey, yeah, this is how you do it, or things that I don't have, because we live in a pretty rural, isolated, area. So we don't always have access to things like, you know, so sometimes people, they'll mail me, things that I need, and that's a true blessing, especially with everything that's happening now, not being able to have to go out there and to, um, the cities or anything. I prefer to stay home because I take care of my father, who lives across towns, and he's 83 years old, and I don't want to have him getting sick. So um, people who could do that, any sort of help that way, I could give you a link, to my PayPal and Venmo, things like that. People who want to support, because right now I'm basically going out and foraging for all these stuff out of my own pocket, and I have a vehicle that's not too doing too well, but it's getting us by. And right now I'm trying to learn some valuable things. I mean, I've always wanted to learn plant medicines. My great grandmother was Commissamus Mourning Dove, Christine Quintasket, and she wrote. She was an author long ago. She was like one of the first Native American authors that there were, and she talked about the plants. You know that every disease, you know, has a cure, and every plant has a purpose. You know, so she worked with plant medicines. My dad, he could have learned, but he didn't pay attention as well. So a lot of my family, they were into plant medicine, but there was so I never got to be taught those things. So I'm trying to take that upon myself to learn plant medicines, and it's scary, you know. It is scary because you know every time you're like learning, and then you know these plants, you know, there's as you well know, they can be dangerous, can be very poisonous, and in my time I've eaten three poisonous plants, you know, in learning. So I understand, you know, that there's things that you have to do or and can't do, especially if you're tired or if your mind's somewhere else, or if you're just, you know, you have to be very cautious and careful. So my my hope is just to be the education, you know, to people to understand that, you know, there's a lot of value, a lot of importance, and um, we've had a lot of people move too, you know, within the movement. um, you know, the people that were helping me are not here right now, so that kind of created a little bit more hardship, and the ones that are here locally, they can't come here because of the sickness. So it's just basically me. And I would say if you could go on my website, www.nanamkin.com, and I'll be posting another video here coming up. And my last name is Nanamkin. And I'm also under my name on Facebook. If people want to send me a message there, I could add them, or they could find me on Instagram. And anyhow, I'll be updating some videos here. I also have a YouTube channel, so I could post some links to you. And you know, I would like for people to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I'm going to be posting a lot more videos there. And I was actually um, wanting to do a video with the land project here, and hopefully at some point, if my one of my bros come back home, he does really great documentary work. There's also a channel, the World Nomads. I posted that on my website, but they came here. Man came all the way from Australia, and he did a segment here on the World Nomads. It was pretty cool. You know, we got to share with them a little bit of our culture. So um, my hope is eventually we could create a documentary of some sort, and that would, I think that would encourage more people to get involved. So thank you for the podcast. You know, having this bit of outreach is vital and important because, you know, there's a lot of people that don't know we're doing this, but again, there are some that do. I mean, people came all the way from Australia to be here, and some people wanted to come here all the way from Maine and New Jersey, and we had relatives from Hawaii and California, you know, that supported us. And eventually, I would love to see more of these um, camps go up. Say, for example, my hope was, and if this COVID thing didn't happen, I would have had an opportunity to have one back to Hawaii. And that was one of the things that I was trying to do there, was create a relationship with some of the land projects there, you know, so we have a education systems where we bring kids and their food systems, which they have some amazing food systems over there and amazing, beautiful culture, and bring them here for our spring root feast, and ceremonies that we do here, which are very amazing too, and just create this, cross-cultural, education, and same thing with other areas, that are doing amazing things that we could start to, bring our kids back over there, bring over here, and maybe one day it'd be great to develop ecotourism, ecotourism here, and that's another goal. So I'm actually was at a class this morning where I'm working on a business, um, trying to develop a business plan to create something along that line.
Well, we'll definitely share links in the show notes for the podcast on how people can support you. I went on your website and saw you had like a PayPal button, and you have like a Patreon too, right?
Yes, I do.
On and yeah, and your website's beautiful. It's tons of awesome photos and stuff. So put that on the show notes too, so people can check out the camps and what you're doing, and we'll do that for sure. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel, so we'll find that too. Put it on there. So
Yeah, there's some things I just haven't really tended to, like the YouTube. I haven't. There's so many. Again, like I'm the only, because of I lost a few really uh, uh, key players here. A lot fell upon me to, take care of everything I'm doing, my father, and many other things within the community. So along with the COVID, I'm trying to help other people. So I'm trying to kind of fast track on this plant medicines, and which is a good thing because I found out there's other people I wasn't aware that was also kind of studying locally with the plant medicines, and I'm just trying out a tea today that, one of my relatives who's a doctor, she told me about this. I went and gathered, some of the things yesterday, and just try. I mean, I never heard of it, but I tried it and I was really surprised. Ain't bad at all, So you're constantly learning, but it really takes me a lot of time and my own resources to go out there. But I have a relative, a friend just across the way over there that has a COVID, and I went and helped them yesterday, and we fought that COVID face to face over there, and with our Indian ways, which is our sweat lodge, with their plant medicines, and it really, really helped this family out. So I think we have some things that could help our nation, could help our people, but it's getting back into what's real, which is the plants, which is our connection and our ceremonies, and so it's getting back to those things, and that's what we truly believed in, and I think we have a lot to share with their kids, but they're so distracted with TV, social media, and video games and everything else that. So how do we make it fun for them? How do we make it interesting for them? Or we make it real for them? We build this pit house and they come in, and for me it was my first time walking in a pit house just several months ago, and it touched me going inside there, and in our sacred lodges that our people used to build long ago, going in there, and it's like, wow, I want to stay in one of these. And so I've been wanting to build one here, because imagine the kids who walk in there and they see like, wow, or they actually help build it even better yet, along with their brothers and sisters. Yeah, and they're like, this is something that's going to really inspire them, that they, when you see them here in the teepees, around the fires, eating, singing, talking, enjoying themselves. It's beautiful when you see them hands in the soil, in the garden, for the very first time in their life, learning by a skilled instructor who's just passionate about, the Three Sisters garden, it's just like, wow, these kids are out there tanning hides. It's something most kids don't even enjoy doing, but they're out here doing it, rubbing those hides and asking questions. And it's like, wow, this is the way. I would love to have us be open for longer than just a weekend. I would love for us to have a eventual just an educational place, where we're constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly thriving, all the time, all throughout the year. People could stop in anytime and say, hey, what you guys doing this week? I want to learn, That would be amazing, you know. We could tell everybody, hey, come on up. We're going to be doing hides this week, and people come who wants to learn, and they bring their food, and they come and share, and we just develop our communities, and our brotherhood, sisterhood relationships. We build that relationship, as communities. I think that would be really amazing.
Gabe worked a bunch of kids camps, but he said that was one of his favorite. It was so fun when he came and helped you last year. He's like, it was one of the funnest times I've ever had.
He's awesome. Gabe is so good.
Yeah,
He's really good with the kids,
yeah. He's
and they really loved him, and when he showed him how to do the fire. So I'll be actually creating another little video and up, uploading that to my YouTube and to the website here and to my Facebook. So I'll be working on that here very shortly. So hopefully within this week or within the next few days, I'll be having that video.
Do you have any final words or things you want to share before we close this conversation, Dan?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and for the people who listen out there. If you know anybody, please reach out to me, email me, or message me. And I do presentations, and these are one of the presentations that I've been trying to promote. And again, we're just keeping it very simple with whatever funding we can get, and it goes to the land project. I'm working on a couple books that I'm writing, and with the books, that's my hope, is just kick it right back to these land projects. And eventually I would like to see more um, land projects, be developed. And I would like to have more opportunities to meet people in different communities, and just see what they're doing, go to their land projects. I love to learn hands-on, so I would love to, learn more from other people. And eventually, maybe I was debating on it about kind of doing a little YouTube channel of going out into the woods, and just talking and sharing some of this wisdom and knowledge. So if I get further inspired, I'm going to do that and just kind of keep sharing, with people, because I really think it's very important, very important. And this communication amongst us, is critical. How do we move forward, as a people, and that's the part I really want us to get to. And to me, I think our answers are up here. Our answers are up here in these mountains. It's like a lot of the prophecies that are being talked about right now. Those prophecies were foretold 7 generations ago, by our medicine people who went up there in the mountains and received these gifts and these visions of everything that we're going through right now. And I think our kids, our youth, have those answers waiting for them up there. So all of this to me is just getting them reintroduced, get their hands back into the soil, get them back into the sweat lodge, get them. Um, these are barriers. Racism, that's a barrier. all these different things that we have, these are barriers. We got to see through our relationship to one another as brothers and sisters, but also all life, which is our egos, which is the foods, which is the medicines, all of these things, they're our sacred relations. So it's getting our kids back to that and that understanding of respect and appreciation and value to all life and that good medicine, that vision. Those things are waiting for our kids. So that's my hope, is to get them back up there and to find that. So it helps us, all of us, on what to do, how to go forward. So I just want to end with that.
Well, thanks so much for everything you do and for taking time out of all the things that you have going on to sit and chat with me for a little bit. And yeah, thanks you so much for sharing this project. And maybe one day I'll be able to get up there and see it and be a part of it in some way, or at least, hear more about it. And yeah, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll talk again.
Yes, that would be great.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
Take care.
You just listened to a conversation with Dan Namkin, and I will post in the show notes links to Dan's website and ways you can support his project via PayPal or other ways that he has set up. And the music for this episode was by Holy River. They used to be called Lobo Marino, and it's a band that hails from my home state of Virginia. And the song is entitled Our Bodies Are Water. And I have a link to their Bandcamp pages where you can check out their music or purchase their music, and that's in the show notes. I think that's it for this episode, y'all, and I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you gain something from this conversation with Dan, and until next time, y'all, take care. This episode of the Groundshots podcast was produced by Opia Creative. Our music is by Mother Marrow. If you'd like to help us continue to make this audio project a reality, consider becoming a monthly supporter on our Patreon page at patreon.com/ofsedgeandsalt, where we have rewards like entry into patron-only giveaways, additional audio interviews, extra educational content, and much more. You can also share our work and give us a review on iTunes. Visit our website at ofsedgeandsalt.com to see what else we're up to and a log of our episodes when they come out. Check out our show notes for information about how to find us and our guests. Until next time, y'all, thanks for listening.